All right, guys. Well, Jared James here. Like I said, I'm excited to have so many of you on here. It's kind of cool. I was saying to someone else yesterday, I think we actually are doing this call as well. It's kind of cool to see so many people on because it's gratifying for how much work you do and how much time you put into people and such. So thank you so much, every single person who's on here. Let's start off. Obviously, you can see on the screen here. If you did not, you should have gotten an email which kind of told you how to get the template and where to get the template, and I think that actually the email we sent out actually had the templates as an attachment on there as well. But if you don't have the business plan template yet, do me a favor. As I'm doing this, I'm going to stall as long as I can. Go to our website, jaredjamestoday.com. The menu item on the top right, now not the flashing screen, the actual menu, like about, home, speaking at events. The top right one says business plan. If you click on that, there's a page there that has two different types of the business plan, either in Microsoft Word format or in the PDF format. Some of you, I mean, when you're dealing with technology, there's so many different levels people have, and some people are outdated, some people are updated, and if you have any issues with the Microsoft Word one, just do the PDF one. If it gives you any kind of issue as far as just opening it completely, what you have to do is save it to your computer and then open it. And then obviously just by the sheer number of people, there's going to be people who still have issues, but hopefully we can avoid that. If that happens, please don't spend the next 10 minutes trying to open it and figure it out. Just shoot us an email, and we'll make sure someone sends you another one that you can open, because I'd like to have you have it in front of you right now, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. But I want this to be a very practical call, very hands-on. I'm going to walk you through step by step so you can see exactly what you're doing, because the one thing you don't want to do, sometimes when you get labeled like a motivational speaker, people just assume that you just motivate people and make them feel well. And motivation's a huge part of our process, guys. It's a huge part of why we succeed and why we do the things we do. But we also need to know what to do, the tangible steps. I mean, if I get you all motivated to run to your friend's house, but I send you in the wrong direction, you're never going to get there, no matter how motivated you are or how much in the shape you are to run. And I compare motivation to like gas in a car. You can have the most beautiful car in the world, but without gas, what good is that car? So you can know all the strategies in the world, but without the motivation to do it, what does it really matter? And that's kind of the viewpoint that I really come from. Is, look, I want to show you what to do, but I also want to give you the motivation, the power, the inspiration, whatever it is, to actually go after that thing, okay? So with that being said, again, make sure you go to jaredjamestoday.com. Top right menu item says business plan. It's one of the menu items, just like a home or about or one of those. You can download the template now while I stall as long as I possibly can, which you can probably tell that I'm doing. But now, a lot of you who are on this right now, we've met before. We have, you've seen me live at an event. We've met at events. You're in our program. You're connected socially, Facebook, Twitter, something like that. But a lot of you, we've never met either. And so I want to give you a little bit of a background. First off, when I first started doing this, God, I was going to say it was 3 or 4 years, but I just saw an anniversary for 5 or 6 years. But I remember 4 years ago when I would do a webinar, and literally there would be like 4 people on. And 2 of them were me and my buddy, and I'm convinced that the other 2 was like my mother and my wife just looking to hear what I was going to say. And so to have, the last 2 days, first off, to have to do 2 separate webinars because there's a limit on how many people we can have on a call is just so amazing and gratifying. I can't even explain it to you. I know that it sounds like I'm supposed to say that and everything else, but literally, I mean, if you were around me personally and my closest friends and family, like, this is what I tell them. Like, I can't even believe it. It's so cool. So thank you, guys. I went from that point to I was selling real estate. I grew up in the real estate industry. I say all the time I was my mother's unpaid assistant for many years, but I was named by Realtor Magazine the #1 realtor in the country under the age of 30. And, back when I was still under 30. But that didn't happen because I changed into a cape and a phone booth every morning. It was for very specific reasons. I am a big believer that you can't put the ingredients in the oven for a pizza and expect a lasagna to come out. It just doesn't work that way. You get what you deserve. I mean, every single person on this line has gotten exactly what they deserve based on the patterns they have followed, the patterns they have sowed, including myself. And so that's why a call like this, which is so hands-on and so practical, is so important, okay? I'm getting stuff from people, too, just so you know. It's just natural that some people are going to have sound issues. If you have those, unfortunately, you can't hear me right now. But if somebody on this call would just jump on the question panel, that you have your control panel for through GoToWebinar, and just let those people know that usually all you have to do is log off and log back on. It's just what happens with technology when there's a certain number of people on, okay? So with that being said, guys, like I said, I'm blown away by how many are on there, but things happen for very specific reasons, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today, is how those things happen, okay? So with that being said, like I said, one last time, jaredjamestoday.com, click on the top right menu item that says business plan. That is where you can grab the business plan. I don't care if you print it out or if you just have it open on your computer, whatever it's going to take to follow. You may or may not be able to actually fill in your stuff on the call as I'm talking, but we're going to try to record this and make sure you can hear it again so you can go through again, but it'll give you an idea of what we're doing and how we're doing it, okay? Next thing I want to tell you guys is if you're on here and you want to ask questions, the best way to do that is going to be if you're on Twitter. I am actually right now, you should see me right now. I have an iPad open. I have a iPhone open. I have a whole lot of things here so that I can talk back and forth with you guys on Twitter and Facebook and these kinds of places. I am not going to be it's not going to be as easy for me to see the question and panel portion, question and answer portion of your actual control panel. So if you're on Twitter, tweet me questions, and I'm going to keep an eye on that and answer some at the end and maybe even during, at Jared James Today. If you're not on there and you're like, well, I'm just not on there, just go join just to follow and ask questions for this as far as I'm concerned. Like, find a way. Or you can go on and send questions to me on my wall, right on my wall, facebook.com/Jared James Today. I will be checking those throughout the call, and then I'm going to have a time right at the end where I'm going to answer your questions, okay? So tweet me at Jared James Today. You might have to follow that first. Facebook.com/Jared James Today. If you don't have either of those, you can put into the question and answer portion of your control panel. But again, I will not have as easy access to that, okay? With that being said, guys, let's kind of move on here, okay? Let's get moving. The first thing I want to talk to you about here is something called interest and commitment, and I talk about this with our coaching students all the time. I want you to ask yourself a question and say, am I interested in having a job, or am I committed to having a lucrative career? Because there is a difference. Am I interested in a job, or am I committed to a lucrative career? These are the things we've got to lay down here, the bricks we have to lay down before we move forward, because you've got to really understand what mindset you're in. We were talking to someone earlier, we were saying, look, business is a lot more than just your principles and all that kind of stuff. It's also the mindset you come from. That's a huge part of it. In sports, it's the exact same thing. I really believe that, I told you, I grew up in this industry, and I get a chance now to speak to tens of thousands of people every single year. And when I do that, you kind of get a sense for who you're talking to. And too much of what I see in the real estate industry, because I love real estate people, but too much of what I see with them is people who got into the industry because they didn't like having a boss. Let's face it, that's the personality type of a lot of people in real estate, myself included. They didn't like having a boss. They saw other people making thousands of dollars on every commission and figured even if they did 8 to 10 transactions a year, they'd still make as much as they did or more than they did at a 9-to-5 job without ever really having to plan or grow a business, or, we can kind of fall into that. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of us did. And then we started making decent money, enough to get by, and we've gotten comfortable with that. And we've said, well, I'd like to do more. Well, I'd like to make more money. I'd like to be financially secure. I have this belief, if you really wanted to do anything, you'd do it. I was talking to someone recently, and they were talking about weight loss. And they said, I just can't do it. God, I struggle with it. I do this, I that. And, a lot of you can relate to what I'm saying right now. But I looked at her, and I said, are you telling me that if you didn't get this under control, if you didn't eat right, if you didn't exercise, if you didn't whatever, if I told you that your children were going to die next week as a result of you not getting this under control, are you telling me that you wouldn't get it under control? And she went, well, of course I'd get it under control. And I said, well, then I guess we really could do it, but there's something inside of us that has to be honest and say, you know what, we actually don't really want it that bad. We don't really... Not that you don't want it. We don't like how people feel about us. We don't like how, whatever it may be, how we feel about ourselves sometimes. But if you really wanted something bad enough, you'd do it. If the motivation was there for it, okay? But the truth is, we've become okay with where we are. We say we want to make more money, but the truth is, although it annoys us sometimes, we become okay with it. It's kind of become like, well, if I had to make these calls, if I was going to die if I didn't, well, then I'd make the calls. But when it really comes down to it on a day-to-day basis, we find reasons not to. Because deep down inside, whether we've admitted it to ourselves or not, we've become okay with it. And that's not okay. And that's why I bring it to your attention. And so this person who was struggling with their weight, I said, deep down inside, you've become okay with it. Although you're annoyed by it, although you feel bad about it sometimes, although it sometimes makes you depressed, if someone was going to die next week as a result, you'd change it in a moment. But there's something inside of you that said, I guess I'm kind of okay with this. And that's really the mindset that I want to deal with when I say, look, you know, it's not about interest, it's about commitment. If we want to do something, we'll do it. So let's get that mindset straight before I even start going through all of this other stuff, okay? Success is really, guys, it's about consistency. It's not about dabbling in this and that, okay? So like I said, we have to change our mindset. We've got to change, and I'm hoping that this, by the way, I'm hoping this call is going to be what changes that for you. That's my goal for this call, is that we get out of this dabbling mindset and really start to be consistent and commit to something. I say all the time, the difference between good agents and great agents is good agents do the common things most of the time. Great agents do them all the time, okay? And there is a difference. There is, I have this belief that, you know, any business plan, first off, there has to be some kind of it has to state what we do, what we want, okay? The way our mind works, the way our brain works, it pulls from the exterior environment to support what it is we already believe, okay? That's why two different people can listen to the same president speak, and based on that same speech, one person goes, that's why he's the Antichrist, and the other person goes, based on the same speech, that's why he's the second coming of Christ. Same speech, because they pulled from that to support what it was they already believed. The issue with most of us is that we don't really have any core purpose. We don't really have, other than just trying to be busy to make it by, we don't really have a core purpose of what our real purpose is, or, you know, what we're really set out to do. What do I really want today? And the issue with that is that you hear a guy like me and you get excited and you pull a piece from it and it pulls you up. And then you go and you watch a movie and you pull something from that movie, it inspires you and it pulls you to the left. Then you go and you read a good book and you pull something from that book and it does what? It pulls you to the right. And you wonder why you're constantly fragmented. It's because you haven't given your mind the ability to work the way it's supposed to work, which is to pull from the exterior environment to support what it is you ultimately want, what you ultimately believe. And so when you don't have core belief, you just kind of follow what's next and stay busy. That doesn't work. And so that's one of the things I want to really set out with us today, is to figure out what that is for you, so that you can start to function in the way that you were created to function and start to really get more out of, what you really should get. You know, you can probably look around you and see plenty of people who have lesser personalities than you, that have lesser potential, lesser whatever, and they're doing more than you. Why does that happen? I mean, it's an honest question, guys. You never want to be self-deceived. It's an honest question, okay? I think there's way too many right now what I call, actually, I think there's just as many accidental successes as there are accidental failures, okay? We have way too many accidental successes. The problem with being an accidental success, that's when you just kind of come in and you fall into some transactions, you make just enough to get by, and accidental success. The problem with that is when stuff really happens and you need to create, you don't know how. Because you came in at the right time and all you had to do was know how to write up a contract. You came into the right place where they were feeding you so many leads that even though you weren't a great converter, you converted enough of them, and you know what I mean? Accidental successes, accidental failures. I don't want any more accidents. I want people to get what they deserve for that very reason, so that we know how to produce it when we need to produce it, because accidents won't produce when you need to produce. And that's not a situation that you want to be in your life, okay? So with that being said, guys, let's go over the business plan, okay? Like I said to you earlier, this is probably not as sexy as some of the stuff that I do live, or that sounds terrible now that I realize I just said that. It sounds as sexy as doing live, but what I really mean is that this is probably not as, exciting and whatever as so many things that I talk about live and do on calls and everything else, but this is the stuff that we need to understand. It's called working backwards. So pull up that business plan in front of you. Try to keep up if you can. You don't have to fill all of yours out now, but I'm going to give you an example of how this works, and then we'll go from there, okay? So the first part you see here, it says, last year I went on, and I'm just going to use easy numbers so the math is easy, okay? So last year I'm going to say I went on 10 listing appointments, okay? So I'm going to put 10 in there. Number 2 says last year I listed, I'm going to say 8 properties. Number 3 says last year I sold, I'm going to say 7 listings, okay? Now that gives us, for number 4, a closing percentage, because it says now divide number 3, which would have been 7, by number 1, which would have been 10. 7 divided by 10, in that little place in there, I'm going to put 70%. Yours is going to be different, but I'm just giving you an example of how it works. This will give you the closing percentage on listings sold compared to listing appointments taken, so you can calculate how many appointments you need to reach your goal. Because in order for you to really work backwards and know how many appointments do I need, you need to know what your ratios are. Otherwise, you're really just trying to be busy. And if you've ever listened to me, you've heard me say over and over again, the goal is not to create busyness. The goal is to create business. And there are two completely separate different things. And without this work in the beginning, we don't know how to change that. You know, I get from people all the time, how should I create business? What should I do? They don't mind working. They just don't know what to do. So this is going to lay that framework for us, okay? It says on number 5, it says in 2014, I want to list whatever your number is. I'm saying 25 properties. I want to list 25 properties. Number 6 says, figuring that my closing percentage will continue to be, number 4, which was 70% for me, I will need to go on, for me it's 35 listing appointments to close on 25 listings, okay? The reason why it's 35 is because if I want 25 listings, like I said in number 5, I take 35, number of appointments will take, times 70% my closing ratio, it's 24.5, round up to 25. So I need 35 listing appointments to close on 25 listings. Now I know what the actual number is. Okay, without the number, you don't even know what you need to do. You don't give your mind something to focus on, and therefore, again, you just stay busy. Number 7 says, now we're going to figure out buyers. Last year I sold homes to, again, I'm going to say 7 buyers, just to make it easy. Number 8, last year I worked with, and I believe I put here, 8 buyers. Number 9, in 2013, I sold homes to, and I'm going to use the exact same numbers. I'll say 7 buyers. So I met with 10 buyers. I sold to 7 buyers, okay? Even though I worked with 8, only 7 of them bought, okay? Number 10. Now divide number 9 by number 7. Very easy again. 7 divided by 10 for my case. It gives you 70%. What did this just do? Once again, for buyers now, it gave me a closing percentage to know how many people I have to get in front of, how many people I have to work with in order to close how many buyers I would like to work with, okay? And then number 11 says, this year, I want to sell homes to how many buyers? I'm going to say 25, just like I said, 25 sellers. So I want 25 sellers, 25 buyers, okay? Number 12 says, figuring that my closing percentage will continue to be, number 10, which was 70%. I will need to go on, once again, 35 buyer appointments, because 35 times 70% is 24.5 or 25, to sell homes to, and now I'm going to take, number 11, 25 buyers, okay? So I now have it written that I want 25 buyers, sales, and 25 listing sales. That's 50 transactions. Now, I'm well aware that there are people on this call who are doing 200. I believe there are people on this call doing 30. There are people on this call doing 0. There are people on this call, so these numbers are going to be very different for you, but I'm just giving you kind of a roundabout how this works because it's going to help you as far as planning out your year, okay? Number 13 says, my average gross commission in 2013 was, all you do to figure that out is you divide your 2013 gross commission by the number of sides that you closed. So if my gross commission in 2013 was $70,000, and I did 14 sides because I said I sold 7 buyers, 7 listings. 70,000 divided by 14 is $5,000. That was my average commission. Now, I got a lot of questions yesterday from new people saying, well, how do I figure this? How you're going to figure this is you're really going to take a lot of the people in your area, figure out what their average commission was, what their average to kind of get an idea for your area, and then lowball it. So if theirs is 5,000, make yours 3,500 or 4,000, so you can get kind of an idea. That way you can shoot higher or end up going higher if your commissions are actually higher, okay? Number 14 says, assuming this continues and I reach my goal of number 5 plus number 11. Number 5 for me was 25 and number 11 was also 25, so 25 plus 25 is 50. So assuming this continues and I reach my goal of 50 transactions this year, my gross commission income goal is, and you take your total number of transactions, 50, times your average commission taken, which is $5,000, 50 times 5,000, for me in this case is going to be $250,000. In your area, it might be something completely different, but I'm just giving you an idea of how this works, okay? Brings us to our next page. Next page of the business plan says, note, you make money on appointments, not on leads. This is crucial for you to understand. People focus way too much on leads and not appointments. You do not make money on leads. You make money on appointments because appointments are either in person or on the phone, which have such a greater way to create context, which is what our industry is all about now. Sales is about context, okay? Having the right amount of context with that person that now they connect with you, they relate with you, and ultimately they're going to work with you. So now it says divide number 6, number of listings needed, which for me was 35, by 11, which is the number of months you will work this year. Okay, so I'm going to take 35, divide it by 11, which equals 3.18. And right in the bottom here, I now know how many appointments it's going to take me per month. 3.18. I'm going to put it there. Okay. Now take 35, the number of whatever, and divide it by the number of weeks you will work this year. So I'm going to take 35, which is my number of appointments I need, divide it by the number of weeks. We're going to say, I'm going to call it 48. I'm going to say I'm going to take a month off, so it's going to be 48 weeks. 35 divided by 48 tells me how many listing appointments needed, okay? And that for me is 0.73. So I'm going to have right here 3.18 and here 0.73. Yours is going to be different, but I'm just giving you an idea. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for my buyers. And since my numbers were the same for my buyers, now I'm going to divide number 12, which was 35, by the number of appointments needed, by number 11, number of months I will work, 35 by 11, and it's going to be just the same thing. Then by number of weeks worked, 48. So they're going to be the exact same numbers for me. 3.18, 0.73. 3.18, 0.73. Then I'm going to add these together for my total. If I add 3.18 times 2 for both of these, my listings and my buyers, I'm going to get 6.36 appointments per month. I'm going to round that up to 7. The reason I'm going to round that up to 7 is because we know that even when you set a certain number of appointments, people are going to cancel. So instead of 6.36, I'm adding up and I'm saying I need 7 appointments per month in order to reach $250,000 in my local marketplace. Per week, since it was 0.73 and 0.73, that means that per week, I'm going to need, total now, 1.46, which I'm going to call 1.5 because I am averaging up. So I need 1.5 appointments per week and 7 per month. And obviously there's 4-week and there's 5-week months that happen. So this just gives you kind of an idea of how this works, okay? My gross income goal for this year is $250,000. That was in number 14. By the way, guys, this is the page that you are going to have up in front of you, staring at you at your desk, staring at you at home, wherever you happen to work. Make multiple copies of this and stare at this because it gives you something to focus on, okay? This tells you what I want. It says I need to create now, down at the bottom, 1.5 appointments per week. I need to create 7 appointments per month. If you're in our coaching program, you know that one of the things I tell you is every single day, the first question you ask yourself is what? And it's not what am I going to do? It's not an activity-based question. It's what do I want, which is a completely different question. Because the problem with a what of what am I going to do, we'll get to what we're going to do. But the reason why this isn't that yet is because when you ask an activity-oriented question like what am I going to do, I can still do what I wanted to do and not get what I wanted. So the example I always use is if I wake up in the morning and I find out I've got a dinner party with, whoever, and, I say to my assistant, hey, would you call so-and-so and find out what's on the menu for tonight? When I go back to my assistant that afternoon and I say, hey, did you get the menu? She's going to go, no, but I called John. He just hasn't called me back yet. Now, did she do what I told her to do? Yes, she did. Did I get what I wanted? No, I did not. So you have to say, what do I want? In that particular case, I wanted the menu. And so from there, once I figure out what I want, everything's on the table. Whether I have to call them, whether I have to look online, whether I have to ask someone, whatever I have to do to find out that, I ultimately am asking what do I want, not what will I do. What will I do comes next once everything's on the table. So in this case, you guys are waking up and you're knowing every week I want 1.5 total appointments. Every month I want 7. Whatever it takes to get that doesn't matter. We'll cover that next, but that is what I want. And if I get that by noon, then technically I'm kind of done working unless I want to be an overachiever. If I don't get that done by 5, I'm not done working. It's really that simple. But it gives you something to go after so that you're not constantly just trying to be busy without ever being able to evaluate where am I right now in relation to what I want. It's why most people literally don't get what they want on a regular basis because they don't even know what their ratios are. They don't even know where they are along the way. Could you imagine if you were driving a long distance like we went snowboarding and it took a few hours to get there a couple weekends ago. Could you imagine if we were in the car and I literally had no idea how close we were, how far we were? Do you know how annoying that would be? Do you know how I'd probably stop at the first mountain even though it wasn't the correct mountain? And I would just be like, we're here. And that's what most of you are doing. You're settling for we're here when you're not there. And you're settling for $80,000 when you should have been making $300,000. And you're settling, you see what I'm saying? And so that's the kind of mindset that I'm trying to create in you right now, and that's really what I'm trying to get across to you. And I hope that gets across in a webinar because, unfortunately, in this format, I can't joke with you as much and do that kind of stuff and read your body language, but I hope you guys get the point, okay? Let's move on to the next part. Next part of your business plan is called what am I committed to? This is where, it says, I know that appointment setting is one of the most important activities in building production, income, and long-term business success. Therefore, the final part of my business plan is to focus on and commit to lead generation and relationship building that I will do in the next 12 months. I want to make sure you understand this, like the reason why I put lead generation here. Too many of us are not doing enough of the lead generation which leads to appointments, okay? If you aren't doing something every single day, like your hour of power, whatever it may be, to create business, I'm telling you, you'll go out of business. It's really that simple. If you're relying on things like your broker's leads, that stuff is bonus. You don't have a business. If you're, a lot of these things we rely on for business, waiting for the phone to ring, you don't have a business. And that's what I want to change within you, okay? It says, while I cannot always control the results, I know that I can manage my time and activities known as my best uses of time. That's something that we talk about again in our program. We call it focus on your butt, your best uses of time. Every single person has different personality traits. They have different potential. That old lie that, you can, anything you want to do, if you try hard enough, you can be anything you want to be. It's such bull crap. It's not true. I can play basketball every day for the rest of my life. I'll never be as good as Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. Just not going to happen. Different potential. And so while we're running around listening to people telling us if we're not blogging, we won't be in the industry in 3 years, that's such nonsense. If you don't like to write, stop blogging, okay? But someone else is killing it doing that because they're really good at that, and you're good at something else. And so we need to figure out what are our best uses of time. What do we do really well? It says there was a study that was done that they found that people innately just focus more on negative than they do on positive. You walk into a room, you see what's wrong, not what's right. It's just how we function. It's why, news programs lead with it. If it bleeds, it leads. Because they know that they'll get ratings if they do that. And the issue with that is that we kind of intuitively, what we look for is we look for what's wrong with us. We look for what's wrong in business, and then we try to fix it. And that's the wrong approach. What we really should be doing is looking for what's right and then scaling it. That's really what we should be doing. What do I do really well? And let's scale that. That's what best uses of time are, and that's why they're so personal to you, okay? It says, the more time I spend marketing my services, the more likely it is that I will achieve my goals. Therefore, I commit to the following business generation action plan. Here is where I want you to write down your top 4 best uses of time. I want you to go over your last 12 months, 24 months transactions, and I want you to see where did they actually come from. We're actually bringing somebody on our coaching broadcast next week who just did this, and she did a fantastic job at it. And I want to show it to all our people and say, this is what she did. This is how it works. This is how you scale. And so that's going to be a really cool example for people to see. But here is where you put them down, okay? An example of what's going to be on your best uses of time is, number 1, every single one of you should have in your top 4 best uses of time your hour of power, okay? Your hour of power is basically where you're doing nothing but something that's prospecting. Prospecting isn't just sitting making calls, by the way. Prospecting is anything that has the potential to create future business, but it also includes making uncomfortable calls. I tell people all the time, you can judge the level of success someone will have on this earth based on a number of awkward conversations they're willing to have. Okay, and so while we have this defense mechanism where we're trying to avoid conflict, we're trying to avoid things we don't want to do while we're trying to, well, then we can't complain when we have kind of an average business, because you can judge the level of success somebody will have on this earth based on a number of awkward conversations they're willing to have. You want to go to the next level? Start doing stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. Start making calls that you don't want to make. Start doing things that other people around you are not willing to do. I'm not breaking any ground when I tell you that. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just we avoid these things, you see. When somebody puts something towards our eye, we close our eye instinctively. We avoid being uncomfortable, and yet it works against you being very successful, okay? One of your top 4 best uses of time absolutely has got to be also your marketing. I want to say something, by the way, though, on that whole hour of power thing, because I've been getting some questions in here about the whole hour of power thing. And guys, keep your questions coming in on Twitter, @JaredJamesToday, on Facebook. I'm going to answer some of these at the end, okay? Facebook.com/JaredJamesToday. I'm really looking after Twitter and these other ones as well, okay? With this whole hour of power thing, think of it this way. People are like, what do I do during this time? When was the last time you reached out to every single person in your sphere of influence? When was the last time? I want you to really think about it. Not ones you bumped into, not the easy ones. When was the last time you made contact with every single person in your database? Think about it. Do you realize that a stat came out through NAR recently that said that 89% of all people when they were done with their transaction, buyers and sellers, 89% said that they would use their realtor again. They enjoyed their realtor so much they would use their realtor again. 89%. Do you know what percent actually end up using their realtor again? 11%. 89% say that they will. 11% actually do. When was the last time you made contact with every single person in your database? Because they're not going to search for you. And yet the number one source of transaction was referrals, 39%. 22% past people using their realtor again. It's the number one source. But we've got such shiny object syndrome, we'd rather focus on all these other things that aren't bringing us as much business, and they don't require us to actually talk to someone, which means we might get rejected. And so we've got to kind of get over that a little bit. Guys, the majority of your business, do you realize it's actually created in about 2 to 3 hours per week? It's the tough 2 to 3 hours every week that actually creates the best results for you. It's not all the wasting time you do and all the things you try to do to distract yourself and all the conversations you're doing to make them go longer than you usually would so that you don't have to do something else, the avoidance things. It's 2 to 3 hours of tough work every week that really creates all of your business. A lot of the rest is waste. And that's the truth in my life too. I mean, I have to look at this as well. This is what happens, okay? So that needs to be on. The number 2, marketing has got to be on your best. What kind of marketing are you doing? And I got questions yesterday, and I'm getting questions now too from people about what are different ways to create business? How do we create business? Guys, I'm going to give you a list of a few different things, okay, that are, see, here's the issue. Most agents who always ask me, they're like, what's the best way to create business? When you look at most agents, they're all really only using 1, 2, maybe 3 different ways to create business. You know, it's kind of like if you go fishing, you know, the more lines you have out, the more potential fish you're going to catch. And yet when you look at the average agent's business, because this is a business, and we've got to start looking at it like that, we don't have enough lines out there. We're hoping our phone rings, we're relying on referrals, we're relying on these things, but we don't really have a lot of lines out there. When you look at things like your sphere of influence, when you look at things like referrals from other agents, when you look at things like your Core 100, which is something we detailed in our coaching program, which was the number one way that I created business in real estate, creates 50 to 70 transactions a year with that one thing, the Core 100. When you look at geographical and targeted farming, which, by the way, is so easy today, there are so many companies out there now that will not just tell you, here's how you get letters, addresses of a neighborhood. They can actually tell you, based on the area that you want listings, you want buyers in, who has the best chance of selling. They know when people have gone through divorces. They know when people are going through probate. They know when people are getting married. They know this stuff now. It's so targeted, and we're not using it. It's crazy. Open houses, which actually work. I got an email from someone 2 days ago. They just got picked up 2 new clients at an open house. But we're going, they don't work. Yeah, because you don't want to do them. I usually find that it's not the tool that's the issue, it's the implementation of the tool that's the issue. So even when you go and do one, if your attitude's not right, it's probably not going to work, okay? But that's another way. Things like listings to leads, the company Listings to Leads, I'll talk about them more later. Our average person gets somewhere between 50 to 75 leads a month from them. They're $19 a month, which is crazy, okay? Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, the zip codes. Agents are killing it with that stuff, with the leads they get, which now turn into appointments, which now turn into transactions, but we're not investing in ourselves. And we're going, well, what's the free way? Guys, there is a cost to doing business. When you look at the most successful companies in your area, you're getting postcards from them, you're getting mail, you're getting stuff from them because there is a cost to doing business, okay? Your website, if it's proper SEO and such, print ads, sign calls. We have something in our program called the Still Wanna Sell campaign. You know, we brought on one of our students a couple months ago. He was using our Still Wanna Sell campaign, and he told us all how he got 5 listings in 1 week and has 5 more appointments set up off of 1 week of using that campaign. It's called Ways to Create Business. It's not that difficult. Buyer Neighborhood Letter, another one we use within our program. It's another marketing campaign that goes out that we get emails all the time, people creating business off of this. New Listing Prospecting Letter, a new one we just introduced in the last couple of months. Someone just told me they got 2 new listings off of it. Rental Apartments campaign, you know, people who on the percentage basis are going to be turning into first-time home buyers. Short sales, relocations, REOs, doing local seminars for people, first-time home buyers and others. Pizza order form, such a simple thing. You know, I can't go into all these in detail because we're only on a short call right now, so I'm just throwing stuff out there, but pizza order form. One of the things we do with all our students is we have them send out a pizza order form. It's a template we use in our program that goes out about a week or so before the closing, goes out to their clients, and it says, when are you moving? Not when are you closing, when are you moving? And who's going to be there? How many people, who are they? How many pizzas do you want? What kind of drinks do you want? Blah, 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 whatever. They find out when they're moving, and then the day of the move, not the close, guess who shows up with jeans on and delivers pizza and eats with everybody? The agent. Why? Because what you're trying to do with your past people is get them to refer you to their closest friends and family. Guys, who's there on moving day? Closest friends and family. And now not only are you somebody they're saying, hey, use my realtor, you've actually sat down with them, created real context. You get them to stop helping move, which they didn't want to do to begin with. You fed them when they were hungry, and now they actually had conversations with you. Many a times they bring up business right there. They've got something for you, whatever. It's so easy. But these are just these many different ways, these different lines that we have out there that you can't rely on any one thing. You've got to have 19 different lines out. You've got to have 22 lines out. But you definitely have to have more than 1 to 3. I think you guys get my point. We've got to handpick your neighbor campaign. I mean, there's just so many different things. One of the things that some of you need to look at, by the way, is you really need to start looking at how you can automate, how you can outsource your marketing this year, okay? You know, there are so many different virtual assistants and even people overseas, whatever, like, you know, whatever your thing is, that is so inexpensive that a lot of these campaigns I talk about, a lot of this stuff, you should start outsourcing them so that every time you go show a house, automatically buyer neighborhood letter goes out. So that every time a listing comes up in your geographical farm, your new listing prospecting letter goes out automatically without you doing anything. Is it going to cost you a few $100 a month? No doubt about it. Cost of doing business, though. If you paid $4,000 a year for something like that, but it brought you $100,000, would you ever stop playing that slot machine? No. But we don't think like a business. This is how a business thinks, and this is how we need to start to think, okay? But stuff like the Core 100, 100% free. It'll be the #1 lead generator for your business. But, you know, we have to know how to do that kind of stuff. It takes a little bit of work, okay? So again, look at the companies in your area and such. I mean, these are the kinds of things they do. Lastly, on our business plan here, you can see at the bottom the positive consequences, the negative consequences, you know, those kind of things. This is powerful right here. When you look at what you say you're going to do, many times you're listing things that you haven't done now because you're kind of scared to do them. One of the greatest exercises you can ever do is to do this positive, negative consequences. We brought on a student on one of our calls a few weeks ago, a live broadcast, and I coached her one-on-one in front of everybody just so that everybody could see it. And she was kind of scared to go and knock on a door in the neighborhood she had just sent a campaign out to. And no, she's afraid to call, afraid to go knock. And I said, do me a favor, get a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and at the top on each side, I want you to write best case, worst case. She wrote best case, worst case. It's the exact same thing as positive, negative consequences. I said, okay, let's do it. What's the worst case scenario if you go there and you knock on the door or you make a phone call? The thing that you're withholding from doing, the thing that's really going to create business, whatever. What's the worst case that happens? She said, they say no to me. I said, write it down. I said, what else? Maybe they're angry I showed up. Write it down. And I just had her write down like the things that she was most, what's the worst case that happens? I said, what's the best case? She goes, I gain a new transaction, they list with me, and I make $8,000. I said, write it down. She goes, I become financially secure, and I can travel like I've always wanted to and not worry about bills. There you go. I said, what else? She goes, I could pay off my student loans. There you go. Now I said, stop. I said, look at your list. I said, look at your best case, look at your worst case. And the scary part is, I said, is that the very thing that you're afraid of, the very thing that you're deciding, you're basically choosing the worst case automatically by choosing to not act. You will never get the best case if you don't act, but you will always get the worst case, because if you don't act, you're guaranteed a no, and that was one of her worst cases, okay? And so, but many times, this is just life, guys. I mean, many times the things that we fear the most, they're not even real. When you look at your best case, what am I so afraid of? Like, what is the big deal? You see, I hope you guys see what I'm saying right now. And yet, look at the possibilities. I mean, best case scenario, I'm financially free. Wouldn't that taste a lot better? Wouldn't that feel better than sitting here scared, waiting for things to happen to you? It absolutely would. And so we need to start to think like that, okay? I want to move on to another one here, guys. Next thing I want to talk to you about really quickly here, and again, I know some of you couldn't fill that out live because it's tough to do in front of, you know, while I'm talking and such, but it just gives you an idea. Next thing I want to do, I'm not going to name a lot here. I'm going to name 3 different tools that I think can make you more efficient. These tools are really about efficiency, about lead generation, about that kind of a thing. You know, because I don't want you to get bogged down with here's 15 new tools I have to learn, okay? First tool that I'm a huge advocate of is something like Dot Loop, okay? Dot Loop, for many of you that know and some of you that don't, is basically the only tool in our whole industry that does the e-signatures, that does the document storage, has your forms right there, the forms you want to use, and does the transaction management all in one place. Not where you're pulling in a DocuSign, a card, all these different things and throwing them together and waiting for one of them to have an issue or the other one to have an issue. It's all in one place. I mean, guys, why would you ever go to like a car, what do you call it, a car place and say, hey, I'd like these wheels. I'm going to go over to that dealership. I'm going to buy the hood. I'm going to go over to that one. No, you would buy it all in one, and that's really what should be happening. Although dotloop's free if you're an agent. It's 100% free. The biggest reason why I bring something like this up is this. Yes, it saves you time because you're much more mobile now. You're doing e-signatures when you go places. Absolutely. But when you look at it, I quote this everywhere I go. The average age of a first-time home buyer is 26 to 31 years old. Average age of a realtor just went up to 58 years old. Okay, first-time home buyers, depending on where you are, make up 33 to 52% of your market. In many cases, over half the market. These first-time home buyers, average age 26 to 31, when polled, 67% of them said they'd prefer to work with someone closer to them in age, but not because of age, but because they want someone who knows how to communicate on their level. Okay. People live in a world right now where they did the majority of their Christmas shopping on Amazon. They went and hit submit, merchants talked back and forth, their credit card was stored, and everything was shipped to them for free. Then they go and they look at houses all day with a realtor. They call their realtor at 9:30 and say, hey, I really like that last property. Can we make an offer? And the realtor's responding with things like, oh, could you meet me in my office tomorrow at noon, or do you have a fax machine? And the agent's sitting there going, the client's sitting there going, a fax machine? Are you kidding me? Like, why don't you just send it over in a pigeon's mouth? It might get here quicker. We have got to learn to work in a way that they want to be worked with, in a way that they're used to being worked with, in a way that gives us a unique selling proposition because they've got the data. They've got everything they need, except for, we need to add some kind of value to them. If you go to dotloop, a lot of all three of these have a link where you can go and so you can try them for free, whatever. But dotloop's 100% free regardless if you're an agent. dotloop.com/Jared James. You can have a free account forever. The only time it ever costs you something is if you're a broker and you want to have your whole office taken over so that you're digital, you're mobile everywhere you go. You can be on vacation, see every transaction that's happening, everything that's happening. Then still you can go to dotloop.com/Jared James. There's a little link on there, I think, where they will give you a demo of it for 100% free, okay? So something you can take a look at. But the actual program itself for a broker, a dashboard, does cost money, but they'll demo it and everything for you for free, okay? Another one I'm really into right now is called AlaGift, alagift.com. They're a company that takes messaging and makes it more personal. So they've built into, if you're doing gift cards for any of your clients at closings or anything, you can get it through them. The only difference is they'll allow you to record a video and put it on the packaging for the gift card. Because video is key, okay? Video is like, as far as how it bonds you to somebody, how it connects you to somebody, 7% of communication is verbal. It's 93% of everything else. They need to see your voice reflection and see your face and do those kinds of things. Don't get mixed in with everybody else by simply sending a card with a gift card, and it gets thrown in a pile with everybody else's. They don't remember where it came from. They also do, you can do your traditional cards, like when you send out holiday cards, Christmas cards, New Year cards in bulk scale. They can do those as well, adding a more personal component. But they also will allow you to do actual videos instead of doing the cards that go out. You can do customized videos on a bulk scale, or you can do them on an individual scale. Like, we had one of our students just send it to somebody who had a baby, and they sent them a personalized video that looks like it's personalized and everything, and they sent me the email because their person emailed them back and said, basically, like, it made me cry. And I'm going, like, that's the ultimate compliment you can get, because people don't remember what you say or do. They remember how you make them feel. And 89% of them said they work with you again, and only 11% did. That means that too many of them are not getting the feeling that they should get from you, okay? If you want to try them out, use promo code all lowercase Jared, J-A-R-E-D, and I don't know what you get, 10 or 15% off or something like that. Last one I want to tell you about, and every single person on this line should go to this link right now or immediately following to get free leads, okay? Listings, L-I-S-T-I-N-G-S, 2 leads, TOLEADS.com/Jared James. What this place does is it takes all that traffic that your listings are generated on to Realtor.com and Trulia and Zillow and all these places, and it pulls it back to you. So they create what's called landing pages. You don't have to fully understand it, but based on people's search, already on the internet, it knows what they're looking for. And so when they look at stuff on Realtor.com and Trulia and other places, it's got little search links on the side like foreclosures in so-and-so school district because it knows that's what they're looking for. When they click on it, it brings them to a branded page for you and turns them into leads for you. They are $19.99 a month, $20 a month, which is crazy when you really think about it. Our average person gets 50 to 75 leads a month from them. But every single person on the line right now, you can get a free month. Okay, I set this up with them. Listingstoleads.com/Jared James. Sign up under that. Free month. Even if you don't continue, if you cancel after a month, why wouldn't you at least go get a free month of leads? Okay. And somebody sent me right now. They said, well, I don't have listings. Will this still work for me? Absolutely. One of the things you can do is if you're trying to create business and you don't have a whole lot of listings, pull listings that are of the agents in your office or friends of yours that are agents that are in areas where you want other listings and buyers. They're in good areas you want. And you can actually, with their permission, you have to ask them, you can market their listings through your Listings to Leads account as long as you tell them, I get the leads that come in, I sell it, but they still benefit because you sold their house. As long as you get their agreement, it's 100% okay to do. Okay, guys? A question I want you to ask yourself here is, what are you willing to change to hold yourself accountable? You know, I had a guy send me a message recently, and it was so cool. He said to me, he goes, you know, Jared, he goes, I know that if I follow your program, if I follow your stuff, I'm going to make a lot more money. He goes, I know I do. He goes, I've talked to people who've done it. He's like, I know I will. He said, my issue is I don't always follow through. And he said, I'm hoping by being in your program, I'm going to be held accountable. I'm going to do all this stuff. But he said, what I did in addition, which was so cool, he said, I wrote a check to a guy in my office who's my accountability partner. I wrote him a check for $1,000 that I really can't afford to be having it go somewhere else right now. He said, but I told my accountability partner that if I did not follow Monday through Friday, my hour of power, the things that I promised I was going to do on a daily basis to make more money, he said, I gave him permission to cash that check and use it. And he goes, if you don't think that holds me accountable, it absolutely does. He said he remembered I told him that a conversation where I told him, look, if you did an hour a day, hour of power, Monday through Friday, 50 weeks a year, that's 250 hours. Do you really think you could prospect for 250 hours and not do more business next year? You absolutely could. But we've got to stop wasting all the time doing everything else. So what are you willing to change to hold yourself accountable? Guys, before I go into a couple more things, I just want to share with you quickly here. I try to do it on every call. I don't want to sound like a big sales guy, whatever, but I still have to make this available to you. We used to do a big one-on-one coaching thing, and it was $500 and $1,000, even more per month. And one of the things that really bothered me about it is that people who needed it couldn't afford it. I mean, let's just be honest, okay? If you're paying $1,000 a month, you're probably doing okay. And so we created what I call virtual coaching, which now we have the tools to do this. And so every single person in our program gets members-only access to our dashboard. On that dashboard are all our templates, all of our campaigns that you want to be doing on a regular basis, access directly to me. Every single person gets my direct email. They also get a support person. You can ask general questions about the program, but anything about business growth, whatever, you go directly to me. And then what's really cool is every single week, every Monday, I do a live broadcast from right in front of my computer where I broadcast out right on the dashboard. You watch it live, where it's a coaching broadcast where basically I talk for 15, 20 minutes about something we need to be doing, hold you accountable, and then I answer your questions the whole time. People are tweeting me, they're sending me questions, or emailing. I'm answering all of your questions. You're also going to be filling out a weekly accountability tracker to hold you accountable and sending them into your support rep. We're doing all these kinds of things, and if you're not able to be on the live call on that Monday, although I recommend being on as many of them as you possibly can, they're immediately recorded, and the moment we're done, they're on your dashboard all week. So if you missed it on Monday, you had to get an appointment come up or something, you can go back that night, that Thursday, watch it, okay? Those get changed every week because those are weekly broadcasts. Everything else on there, all of the stuff about the Core 100, all of the different strategies, all that stuff is archived on there. It's on the dashboard. It's all according to the tabs. You go for this business growth idea, for this one, and they're all part of your program to keep you going. It's usually $39 a month or $3.99 for the year. But for this special, what we're doing right now, we're doing it for $29 a month or $2.99 for the year, which is ridiculous, guys. All you have to do is go to jaredjamestoday.com, go to the coaching training tab. It'll be a little drop down. Just go to where it says sign up and just put in the promo code 2014. Again, promo code 2014. If you put in the promo code 2014, you're only going to pay $29 a month or $2.99 for the year. Guys, it's absurd. Most of you pay more than that for coffee every month, okay? And this has the ability, I mean, if you created 10 more transactions as a result, was that a well-spent $2.99 for the year? Absolutely. But what I've developed here with this Virtual Sense is a way to scale on a level where we can make it so stinking affordable for people that it works for everybody, that it's a great value for everybody, but it also makes it worth my time and the people that work with me to do it, and it's grown like wildfire since we started, okay, guys? We've got office packages and that kind of stuff too, but if you're individual on here, guys, what are you willing to do to change this year to hold yourself accountable? This is something that I highly recommend you take advantage of. $29 a month, $2.99 for the year, jaredjamestoday.com. Just go and click that and go down, and it's, you put in the promo code 2014, okay? With that being said, guys, I want to just kind of say here, I've got a couple more things here, but I hope you understand, like, I do this because I genuinely care. Like, I was raised by a single mom. I was in the real estate industry. I saw a lot of struggle, a lot of different things, and most people don't struggle because they're bad people. They struggle because they don't know what to do. They struggle because they know what to do, but they just don't follow through. They struggle. I mean, I have made it my life's goal to help other people get what they're after. I mean, I can't tell you the joy that I take from doing that. I've just found that, money isn't everything, but it definitely makes things easier. But making money is not difficult, it's different. You've got to change what you're doing, and you've got to be consistent. Every day, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And that's kind of what we try to do with our program, is kind of help you with that. I've found, they did a study once of the top 100 entrepreneurs in the country during a down economy. Why were they doing so well? I say this at every event. And by the way, every one of you on here is an entrepreneur. I hope you understand that. An entrepreneur is somebody who works 80 hours a week, so they never have to work 40. That's an entrepreneur. And they did a study of the top 100 fastest growing entrepreneurs in a down economy and wanted to know why they were doing so well during a down economy. And they were expecting to hear things like, systems, and they had great management. And number one was something called speed of implementation. Speed of implementation means that when you hear good ideas, you actually follow through with them, okay? That's actually how it works, okay? With that being said, guys, I'm going to answer some questions. Make sure we're connected, facebook.com/JaredJamesToday, on Twitter @JaredJamesToday. I put up the YouTube link now because I'm creating a lot more free videos now for training and stuff for you guys to check out. So if you go to youtube.com/Jared1119, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel to get a lot of free stuff. I try to give out as much value as I possibly can, okay? So for those of you that want to send a question now, tweet it to me @JaredJamesToday. On Facebook is also JaredJamesToday. I'm going to start looking through right now. You guys are more than welcome to hang on here while I'm opening these up. And for those of you that have to leave, you can do that as well, but let me get to some of these right now. Nice one, Jason. You wrote, I'm doing my first pizza order this weekend, which is a good idea, Jason. I love to see that. What's the difference between that? I kind of already answered that question, so I'll do that. Becky, business planning with Jared, smart guy, biggest. I appreciate that, Becky. That was very nice of you. I'm going to look for some questions here. Coaching, is it coaching long term, or is it okay? You can either do monthly, and if you sign up monthly and decide one month it stinks, then you can completely get out. That's completely up to you. But the year up front obviously saves you on the upfront, and I don't think it's a huge investment for what you get in return. So that's completely fine. How can you help me achieve what I'm after? Someone asked. That's kind of generic, so I'll leave that for later. I'll kind of respond to that on a personal basis. Guys, a lot of these questions I see coming in on the side, I'm going to answer these afterwards because I don't want to hold you guys too long, okay? So with that being said, like I said, facebook.com/JaredJamesToday, Twitter @JaredJamesToday. I hope I get a chance to have a ton of you in our program. I mean, that's a ridiculous price. Put in 2014. Obviously, 2014 is your promo. If you have any questions, send them in to us, guys. But I have absolutely loved doing this. I probably only do this about once every year or two now, these free ones. So, guys, stay connected. I hope I get a chance to see so many of you live at an event. If you're on a committee or something, I'd love to see you guys live at an event at some point. But have a great day. And even more so, guys, I hope you have an awesome 2014. I'll talk to you soon.